Okay. Hello, party people.
Hi, Lori.
Hi. So, we just had a tasty lunch, and now I'm here with Jennifer Urezzio of Soul Language. NoSoulsLanguage.net is the website. And Jennifer is my mentor.
Thank you.
And also a friend.
Thank you.
And also really brilliant.
Oh, well, thank you. Let's go for a fourth thank you.
A fourth? Okay. I'm like, I can do it. And she actually also an amazing professional question asker.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And, I met Jennifer, and there are plenty of interviews that we've done that you can, figure out more about what we're up to. But she's super powerful, super amazing, and loves to help other people and facilitate their expansion, growth, and ultimate connection with the divine. Which is really special. It's really special, especially because the people that she's helping have a big mission in general, and they don't work with Jennifer just because they're like, I want to live my little life. It's more like, I want to be of service.
In a huge way.
Yeah, in a big way, and so that's why people come to Jennifer.
Yeah, and those people that like you that have that big service can very easily slip into servitude. And they can very easily slip into that lack of connection. And so it's important for those that are serving others in a big way to really keep going deeper and deeper into their own journey and into their connection, whatever they believe is their higher power. Whether it's a universe, God, a tree, I don't care. It's really about being in tune and fine-lining your internal connection.
Talk to me a little bit more about service versus servitude, because that was a really interesting thing. I'm sorry, it looks like we've got a fruit fly that's hanging out. It's probably from the plants.
Service and servitude, they're people who are of service want to really serve the world.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we want to serve the world so much that we forget that we're part of the world. And so we'll say, oh yes, I can help that person, I can do this, I can do that. And before you know it, there's nothing left for you or your own life or your own expansion of what you want to do. And it's very tricky for Master of Services to go right into servitude. And the key, I think, is to understand what joyful service means to you, why you're saying yes to something. Is it in alignment with your sacred mission? Is it in alignment with the business mission or the movement mission, and what is the motivation behind saying yes? A master of service knows that every time you serve, they are served as well, and that can mean a bunch of different things to different people, and it's really integrating all of that. And since I'm a master of service and my life, Peggy was on, so she talked about the schools, and I'm the school of service. Servitude is a very fine line. And so before I say yes to anything, I really have to go through kind of a checklist in my own process and going, if I do this, am I going to do it joyfully or am I going to do it yes? And then really, go in and really despise it, and because that causes a whole bunch of problems.
Right.
From lack of income to, getting into a car accident.
So I'm curious, how can we check in and see if something is in alignment with us? And you mentioned a checklist.
Yeah. Well, I know what my sacred purpose is, right? So my sacred purpose, and people confuse their sacred purpose with the how. They confuse it with the delivery system.
Okay.
So my sacred purpose is connection. Okay? The how, the delivery system is no soul's language.
Right.
Right? So I measure up everything with connection.
Okay.
So that's the first layer of my checklist. Is it going to help myself and others create a deeper connection with what they call their higher power?
Mm-hmm.
If it's a yes, okay, that's off the charts. Am I going to be able to say yes to this and joyfully do it? If the answer is yes, I check that off. If it's no, and I really have to do it, I got to figure out a way of going inside to be in alignment with it.
I need to take notes. Pause. So I just want to review the two things that she said. She said, Jennifer said, is it in alignment with sacred purpose? Is the first one. align with sacred purpose. And then the second one was,
In alignment with being joyful service.
yeah, is it joyful service?
Because if it's not, it's just going to create problems from the get-go.
Yeah, you don't want resentment on something that you said you
And
would
it's
do.
very sneaky, right?
Yeah, it's totally
You know,
sneaky.
I've said yes to, my perfect example is several years ago, oh my God, it's going to be like 10 years ago. I used to like facilitate this group, and I hated doing it. I mean, I despised it. And it was such a drawing on my energy, and I just couldn't say no. I just didn't have the guts to say I'm done. So I'm on my way to facilitate this group, and I get into the biggest car accident ever, like $6,000 worth of damage.
Wow.
And I went, okay, I'm not going to keep doing this because I'm just going to sabotage myself along the way, not to do it.
Right.
And that happens very sneaky with a lot of things.
It does. I'm going to share one that I think is also very tangible for people. And if you start to look back at the things that you've said yes to that you really didn't want to do, and the ways that we sabotage those things. So I was asked by a friend's parents to come in and be the head buyer and merchandise their store, which was a great opportunity, I thought, and I was really excited about it. But I will say this, I knew that the mom was a sneak attack bitch. And I said, oh,
I can handle her.
I can handle her, exactly. And I had said that before, and it did not do well. So this happened, and I was like, so Sneak Attack Bitch came out, and guess what? I wasn't allowed to be a buyer. I wasn't allowed to be a merchandiser. I was like Susie Sales Girl on the shop floor, like not being utilized for my strengths and gifts. And I was like, this is bullshit. 6 weeks into this work, guess what? I had plantar fasciitis so badly in my feet that I could not walk. I couldn't stand up, and that was my job, was to stand up all day long and help people like find the most amazing stuff to wear, which was actually very fun. And
but not part of your sacred purpose in any way.
It sort of is a part of my sacred purpose,
but not
that delivery system, because I do still help people find amazing things to wear, but not in a shop on a shop floor. So so I had plantar fasciitis so bad I literally had to quit. And it wasn't even the plantar fasciitis. I just got like Danskos to like mask it. So I'm wearing Danskos, and then I never have headaches. I got like the most painful headache that started down here and came all the way up to here that I couldn't move. And then I was like, oh, I need to not be here. Like, I didn't want to be here. So that was like literally 6 weeks is all it took of doing something that I knew I shouldn't have been up to, because it wasn't really in alignment with sacred purpose, and I wasn't doing it joyfully. Right. And boom, I had a very physical.
And what often happens is we're praying for something, right?
Yeah.
And so then we get this opportunity and we think, oh my God, this is the answer to our prayers.
Sure.
And yet we don't really do a firm check-in to go, yeah, this is totally in alignment.
True.
Or your motivation for saying yes to something is based on fear and not trust.
Okay, so would that be number 3? What's your motivation?
Yes. What you're saying yes based on? The motivation. Is it out of trust and out of love, or is it out of fear or doubt? Now, fear and doubt are very tricky, right? Because there's all sorts of layers. Like, I could say yes to something because I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Right.
Or I want your friendship or whatever. Or I could say yes to something out of a client. And for those of you that have clients and are service providers, this is key. Mm-hmm. Because we often say yes because A, we want to be a service to someone. And if we're at all in lack, we're going to say yes to any client.
Right.
And then we get the crazy clients.
Right.
The clients that don't pay.
Right.
The clients that, are calling us 24/7. And that results in heartache. And it doesn't really do any service for you or for the other person.
And it came because we were saying yes from a fear place of not enough.
Not enough. And not enough is so huge and tricky.
Yeah.
There's so many different levels. So, there's a process, and you've got to keep going within trust and going within and asking yourself really good questions and keep asking. And I think people often say yes because we're under the impression as it being master of service that we're the source for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not. We're just the resource, right?
Right.
You're praying for something, they're praying for something, and the divine puts you two together to answer prayers. Now, sometimes that lines up perfectly.
Right.
But there's free will involved, and sometimes that doesn't line up perfectly. And we can't make it line up. We can just kind of pause and really go within and see how we want to react to any situation. And that's why having that kind of inner guidance system and being connected helps.
Absolutely. So a lot of people make decisions in a short period of time. At what point do you cultivate this, set of checkpoints really to where you can really just intuit and feel like, oh, this is a yes or this is a no?
Well, there's an easy, really way to do it.
Okay.
So everyone close their eyes.
Okay.
And ask divine intelligence, which is just another word for your body, to show you in your body when something is in alignment with your life and your life purpose alone. And it might be a tingling, it might be a joyful sensation, it might be a relaxing, but now you know what that feels like.
Mm-hmm.
When something doesn't feel like that, when you are going to say yes or you have to make a decision, even a quick second, you can say no without any hesitation, without any doubt. It doesn't feel like that. So your system, your soul, your body, they know. Listen to that system.
Mm-hmm. The other thing, too, is that I used to think that I needed a reason to say no or to stop doing something. And so then I would create a reason, like ill health or some other drastic catastrophe.
Right.
Like I had to have some external reason to be able to make a decision that served me. And it took me a long time and a lot of decisions fueled by things that were not necessarily good, to be able to say, I can just say, I'm done, without having to have any reason whatsoever and without having to explain it.
Right, and those people that are in that transition of needing a sort of a reason, the one-liner is, you know what, that just doesn't feel right for me. And and even if someone goes, well, if they're going to disagree with your feelings, you keep them back to the loop of, well, that just doesn't feel right for me. Like, there's nowhere to go with that. It just doesn't feel like to me. They have to accept it or not. And if that person's not going to accept it, then you shouldn't be playing with them to begin with.
Yeah, and I want to point this out too. So often in our coaching world, you'll get on the phone with someone and they'll want you to make a commitment to purchase a product or service on the phone.
Are we going to drag out my soapbox now? Because I'm so ready for this conversation.
We are. And personally, that is really, really nasty, I think. And I've been on those calls. I don't think I ever ask anybody for their credit card on the phone. I'm like, okay, I'll send you an invoice. Like, it's that simple.
I have. And it's usually because people go, okay, so how do I
pay?
Right.
That's different. But the people, the ones I'm talking about, and the teachers who teach them.
Right. You can get, if you don't have the money now, why don't you just go into your 401k plan?
Yeah, those people.
So Kathy Smiley Miller has coined this phrase, so I think she's watching, called string plucker. They pluck your strings.
Yes.
Now, if you say it correctly, string plucker, it sounds much more intense, And those people will go in, and most of them do it consciously because they're taught, and go, okay, so you're in fear of not enough. Let's pluck that string.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a pattern and a phrasing and a structure to get you to, I'll go into your 401k.
Yeah, because they actually have a script on the other side of the phone that they're reading from, and that they're using those NLP techniques to make you feel bad. And then when you say, it doesn't really feel right, they still want to dig into that. They still want to go there. And
well, they also say, well, you don't value yourself, or you don't believe enough in yourself, or blah, blah, blah.
Right. Classic.
All that might be true, but here's the bottom line. If anyone is inciting that much fear in you, meaning that much, oh my God, If I don't do this, my life is over. Not from a, oh my God, there's this something in my heart that says that this is the right thing. It's the exact opposite.
It's the opposite.
You get off the phone as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Because that fear cycle is going to be covered throughout your coaching practice with them.
Mm-hmm.
And after you get over your first coaching phase with them, they're going to upsell you and upsell you and upsell you and keep fueling that you're not enough.
Yeah, and in fact, the question is that they ask, and this is good because you can steer clear of this, is what will happen to you if you don't say yes to this? You know, this whole like doom and gloom, like beating the drum of disaster. And so again, back to what this is really about is saying that we can make decisions in our own time and in our own process, being connected to the divine, to source, and check in and not have to explain any of that to anybody about anything, whether it's why you chose to wear pink today,
Right.
or why you're not spending $25,000 on a product.
Right. And it is your right, and your soul has all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's just a matter of asking really good questions. So whatever is kind of in the way of you fully expressing that gets released. And there's this whole philosophy of, you know, you got to release it, you got to let it go, you got to, you know, let go of your limiting beliefs. No, you got to love your limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're a part of you. They're going to come up again and again. You know, embrace them, use them as fuel, use them to utilize, you know, your consciousness.
We get to make friends with our limiting beliefs.
They're going to be there anyway, and they're going to keep coming up. So you might as well embrace them. And remember, no one knows everything there is to know about you except you. And don't let anyone else tell you anything different, especially when you have this deep knowing. And I see it all the time, people led astray because they're handing over what some people will call the power. I don't believe you can hand over power. I mean, it's just yours. But they hand over the decision-making process to someone else because they're tired or they're frustrated or they're in a bad situation or they're stuck. You're never lost. You're just a little cloudy, and it's just about getting clarity.
So how would we get clarity? The
first step is in conversation with yourself every day. You know,
what format does that take?
Well, I sit down with my soul language team, so I, you know, create a sacred space. Usually I'll start with a question. Sometimes I journal, sometimes I do meditation. I switch it up because I'm very action-oriented.
Yeah.
And if I do something over and over again, it becomes like a lampshade and I can trick myself. So the one question I always ask is, what do I need to know today?
Oh, that's a good one.
It's a great starter question.
Yeah.
And if you're having a particular situation that's giving you trouble, a couple questions you want to ask are, you know, where am I in non-acceptance? And if you know your big hot buttons, and some big hot buttons are not enough, failure, not enough covers a lot. There's really only one big fear, and that's the fear of not being safe. So when all else fails, that's the number one question you can ask is, where do I not, what about this situation is creating unsafe feelings? What do I get to activate, meaning turn on like a superpower to feel safe in this situation? And this is really important for those big mission people who are out in the spotlight, right? Because the more we come out in the spotlight, the more we as service people, we're gonna like, oh my God, I've got to take care of another person? No, you don't have to take care of anyone. But that spotlight can trigger all those fears of having to be of service, of having to take care of people, of responsibility, of even people not showing up.
Definitely. The spotlight, I think, actually, well, it amplifies.
It does, and for those, back to Peggy, for those that have the spotlight in your hand analysis, it's really important that you define what that spotlight means to you and your soul. And, you know, for you, you know, your soul language team members, so, you know, I would sit down and go, what does the spotlight mean to me? What does that look like? What does my soul want for that? Why did my soul choose that? Because everything that you are, you have chosen somewhere along the line. and people forget. And when you remember that somewhere along the line you had your back totally, like you knew what you were doing, wasn't based on ego. For me, there's a deep sense of safety and understanding that, because I'm like, oh, okay, well, I had it covered, so I'm just going to go with it.
Neat.
Yeah.
Very neat. This is a juicy conversation. I want to talk a little bit about so many places to go on this one. Okay, let's talk a little bit about soul and business. The theme of this virtual retreat is reverence and revenue, and we've certainly covered a lot there in how to create a business that is healthy and in alignment. We've heard the word alignment, we've heard the word trust, we've heard the word integrity, we've heard the word knowing. Everybody is beating this drum of, hey, guess what? We are actually our own best guides on this journey. And that's not something, gosh, that gives me chills. That's not something that there are a lot of people out there telling us.
No.
They're telling us that they're the best guide. And so, and often we get caught up in this. So I think one of the main themes of the past 2 days has been, we are the best guide for our journey. Now, that being said, how does one tap into that as we are confronted with all of these different options and imperatives, what feel like imperatives for us and our businesses?
Well, your business has a soul as well. And
Yes.
people forget this.
Yeah.
People think that they're their business.
Right.
Right? And you've called in this energy.
Sorry, baby. Okay.
You call in this energy to do something bigger for yourself and then for others. And people,
it's a good distinction.
People forget to have that same conversation that they would have with their personal soul, with their soul of their business. Now, here's the thing, Lauren. You've been hearing that all along. But you've been really text messaging your business instead of having a sacred conversation. Right? And not only that, but you've been listening to all of the other business experts who say, you should do it this way.
Yeah.
Right? And therefore, there's a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
So the first thing I tell people to do is, after we identify their languages of their business, and each one of us, your personal or your business, speaks 3 languages. Your mission, how you feel that mission, and then the personality.
You said how you feel?
Fuel.
How you feel that mission. Yeah.
Right? So we sit down and we have a conversation. What's the big sacred mission of your business? Okay, what's some of the delivery systems? What is the one thing that your personal soul and the soul of your business wants everyone to know? Now, there are going to be big themes, okay? Love, freedom, peace. Then you've got to determine how you and your business, what do you want to bring to that big theme, right? After we do that, then comes the how. See, you have to figure out the why before you can even start the how.
Right.
And people do it backwards.
Sure.
And so then there's all this confusion about, oh my God, how do I do the how? You're not confused about the how, you're really confused about the why. Because the why drives the how. Then I tell everyone to write all of those marketing things down. Because, there's several stages. There's creating a product, and then there's the marketing. So write all those marketing things down. And then look it through with your team, meaning your personal soul and your business soul, and see which one because I'm visual, so it will pop out at me. I remember having a conversation with a client, and she's like, well, I've got to do this newsletter. I was like, what do you mean you've got to do this newsletter? She goes, well, that's what they told me to do. I'm like, well, first of all, who's they? She goes, well, you have to write a newsletter because you have to communicate. I go, do you like to write? She goes, no, I hate it. I go, so let's come up with a way where you can communicate with your audience that resonates with both you and the business. And she's like, oh. And right away she knew. She's like, I like to do video. I'm like, then do video. She sent out a video. And she's like, oh my God, the response was overwhelming. I'm like, yeah, because people hear that. Even most of my, group is very conscious, right? But even just the everyday guy on the street has a sense of whether you're in alignment and speaking your truth or not.
Yeah, others can tell.
Right? So you want to keep coming back to your truth, the truth of you and the truth of your business. So my truth, my personal truth is connection. The business is about being a counsel of the heart, right? Not really my personal soul, right? My personal soul is action, movement, come on, let's bounce, let's do it, let's face, like very driven. The business is very like receiving. So I got to keep bringing that in. So often when I'm in and talking with people about their business or about soul language, I'm much more, I would say, open and receiving and heart conscious than if you see me on the street.
Yeah, that's really fascinating because when, even from a physical standpoint, when you're in Jennifer mode, it's like, la, la, yay, la, la, which is super fun. And when you're in, I'm working in my business right now, it's like there's a distinctive switch that is calm, inviting, receptive energy. That's fascinating.
Because I'm using both my personal soul energy and stepping into the energy of the business. And people forget. And, you know, I think one of the problems that drives that, oh my God, I've got to do, is this overwhelming feeling of master healers and masters of service and entrepreneurs of, I've got to get this done because if I don't, something will happen. Meaning the people that need it won't be served, or that somebody else will think of the idea. Or the big one, even though people won't consciously say this, is I will let the divine down. And so that drives a lot of that gotta do. And so people put things out that aren't really truly of themselves, and then it falls. And, you know, I've been taking singing lessons. In my community, I'm pretty open about this. And, you know, I work with my soul, and the soul of I work on it every day. But when you step out and do something different, all this new stuff or shit hits the fan, right? And so, you know, as I'm doing this singing lesson, you know, she's like, okay, so you've got this voice that you can really sing, and you don't believe you can sing, because usually I have the opposite problem. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, well, you got to be okay to kind of really royally fail. Now, failing has always been one of my, it's my life challenge, right? So I've kind of conquered that in my business world and my personal world. But here's another way of expanding where she's like, okay, sing. Now, I've been singing all day, every day at home, nobody there. And she says sing, and I go,
are you going to sing for us?
No way.
Okay.
No way. Sometime I will, but not today.
Okay.
But, you know, so you have to step out. And that's what I want people to understand. There's so many different ways to connect with their soul and to keep going into that connection. But if you don't pause, if you don't sit down and listen to your personal soul or your business soul in both, you're missing a whole lot of information, valuable, supportive information for you and then for your community.
Yeah.
And master healers will always go for their community first. Oh, well, let me share this with my community. How can I help my community?
Oh, yes.
And they forget to embrace that learning for themselves in a deeper way. So it's integrated and then share it.
Interesting. I just thought about that for myself. So, and you guys, some of you have read this, but I started working, I guess maybe a week ago on I don't know what the format, at the time I didn't really know what the format would be, but a program called More Than Enough. And I really felt like all of my clients deal with not enough. I deal with not enough. I need to create this. And it literally just started coming. And I was like, oh, this is easy, great. And so I was like, oh, it can be like a month-long program. It'll be just like a daily email that will go out, and they can do it at their own pace and whatever. It'll be awesome. So I got through like 7 days worth of these emails, and they're really meaty, okay? They're not like, yay, go you! Like, that's not what's in these emails. And I was like, this is feeling really good. Like, this is awesome. I like it. And then one day, I had a meltdown. And I was just like, shit, here I am writing this, you know, more than enough stuff. I'm writing this curriculum, basically, that is codifying my methodology for not enoughness. And I feel like shit today. Like, and not just like shit. I feel like like
sitting on the couch eating cheese.
Yeah, or
sitting in the bathtub and just crying. Yeah.
I was sitting in a chair. You can't see right. I was sitting in this chair, and it's actually kind of usually in the window, and I'm just like bawling in front of my computer. I'm just like so like pitiful is the word. I was pitiful that day, and I couldn't blame it on a period. I couldn't blame it on like the moon. I was just like pitiful, and I just started writing. And I was like, I gotta put this out here. And I was inspired because someone else I saw wrote a very vulnerable post on Facebook. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stick this on Facebook. Like, I don't need to make a blog post out of it. I'm just gonna like put it out there. And I just kept writing and sobbing, and then writing and sobbing, and writing and then sobbing. And then I noticed, so there are buildings across the street, and our street's a narrow street, so like I can see in their windows and they can see into mine. And like that's how it is. And I look up and there's a woman like standing at the window, and she must be going like, oh, like what is this girl doing?
Should
like,
I call her?
Like, yeah,
I'm on or what?
Like here I am like typing, and then I'll be like, ah, like not just like baby tears, like gut wrenching, heaving into my arm because there's so much water I don't want to go on the computer. And I realized in that, and certainly I got a really interesting amount of feedback about it, like. Pretty overwhelming, actually. I had people who I haven't spoken to in years, like decades, emailing me and being like,
because you actually spoke from the heart and people.
They responded, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I sponsored it. I made it a sponsored post on Facebook. I was like, let's see what else this could do. Anyway, and then someone emailed me about that. And she's like, why'd you sponsor it? Tell me more. And anyway, so point being that as a master healer, because I'm a healer, I consider myself one, we forget sometimes that we need to apply our same methodology to ourselves. And in that moment, I was like, oh, right. So I'm here writing this great stuff that I just think is brilliant. And it's like, I had to go back to that place of not enough in order, I think, to get access to what I need for the next layer of stuff. And that I needed to be reminded that I don't get to take the easy route.
Well, not only that, but the not enough is going to keep coming up.
Absolutely.
And you're a master healer, so you're also going to pick up the mass consciousness of the universe.
Yeah.
And so the spiritual journey is not, I learned how to ride my bike and I know how to ride a bike forever. Mm-hmm. It's an ongoing, keep going process for bigger expansion of your soul. And guess what? Your soul is running off on itself. And our humans think we can control it, and it just has its evolutionary process, and you can work with that. And as you're writing stuff, of course, things are going to come up, to be looked at, examined, and who knows. And sometimes we can spend some time analyzing it, and we don't really have to. We can just go, okay, my favorite new phrase is, okay, that happened, and then what do I want to do from here? How do I want to? One of the questions I always ask myself is, how would a spiritual leader react to this?
That's beautiful.
And sometimes I'm really great about that. And sometimes I suck. So here's a perfect explanation that I love this story. It's Monday or Tuesday, and my phone is by my bed, my cell phone. And I have a service where people can call me. It's called Intuitive 911. They can call me 24/7. It's part of their monthly package. So the phone rings, and I pick it up, and I don't recognize the voice. So now I'm pissed because it's 4:30 in the morning.
Oh.
And I'm like, and they're like, hello, is this Jennifer? I'm like, do you know what time it is? Because I don't recognize the voice. Right into Warrior. And she's like, well, I thought the voicemail would pick up. And I'm like, it's 4:30 in the morning. So she's like, I'm sorry. And she hangs up. And I all of a sudden I was like, oh crap. And what am I doing picking up the phone at 4:30 in the morning? And I just went all Warrior on this poor little woman. And she seemed really nice. So I'm just going to go back into my soul and call her back. Now it's 4:30 in the morning. And so I call her back. I'm like, hi. She's like, oh my God, I was just writing you an email apologizing. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I have this service and I didn't recognize the number. I didn't recognize the voice. And so I went right into Cranky Jen. She's like, I need to reschedule a discovery. I'm like, that's okay. Let me just get up and go to my book. But, there's times as a master healer that you are going to be human. And whether you believe it or not, your community will actually fall a little more in love with you because you are human and because you do fall down. And as long as you're soulful about it and really honest about it, and apologize when you need to, and really be committed to your own journey, it will really unfold pretty naturally, without judgment. And I think one of the major problems of entrepreneurs is they've got this comparison energy. And Facebook's horrible for it.
Oh yeah,
horrible. And Master of Service, because the service themes, right, the spiritual themes are so big, right? Love, peace, freedom, right? Yeah, God's sending those messages to a lot of people. But your community needs to hear it from your voice. My community needs to hear it from my voice. So when people see that thing on Facebook, and it might be a similar message, and they'll go right into not enough. They'll go into failure. They'll go right into what a blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that's the moment where you settle down and you really connect with your team and go, okay, what do I do? What do I feel? What do I activate? What do I let go? What can you tell me more about really being this and living my life to the fullest? Because why are we all doing it? I mean, why are you doing it?
Why am I doing it? My why is, one, it's too painful for me to live in another way. Truly. Right. It's actually a visceral pain. So, I have to.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. If you weren't doing it, you'd still be doing it, even if you were a bartender. And yet then you'd have to swim drinks too, right?
Right.
So you're going to be who you are.
Yeah.
You can be it fully and completely and soulfully, or you can let it leak out in painful ways.
On that note, and this I think will be a tangible concept for you guys, I heard someone who's a master healer say, don't you guys realize that all the prostitutes out there are master healers too?
Yeah.
Really interesting stuff.
If I fundamentally believe that I'm whole complete, right? Most days, right? Most days I practice that. Some days I don't. If I fundamentally believe I'm whole and complete, then I have to fundamentally believe you're whole and complete. And everyone I come in contact with. And so how can I promote fear when I believe that you're whole and complete? Is there areas of all of our lives where it could be a little more clear? Yes. And that's when we get to ask a good question. That's when we get to bring soul more into our body. That's where we get to go, ego, thank you so much for keeping us safe. But I really want to listen to my soul now. That's when we get to keep turning towards truth. And it's really important that people understand what their truth is. That big truth, which is different than your sacred mission or purpose. Right? It's that one thing that you know that doesn't have to do anything with your physical form or your life or anything that no one can take away from you. And when you keep turning towards that, there's a settling. Because you go, oh, wait, that doesn't matter because this is the number one truth.
Yeah, the big truth. That's something that would be good for people to get in touch with. The other thing, too, is we spoke earlier today with Vanessa Scotto, who gave us a very concrete approach to how to deal with the boogeyman inside, the inner critic, which is another word for fear and not enough. So she was saying that we can't actually apply effectively any kind of positive thinking or affirmation until our physiology is ready to receive it. And the way to receive it is actually to cultivate compassion. She said you can do this and you can breathe into it. You can decrease or rather double your exhale is another one. Another way is to, I think that's why a lot of people love chapstick, is that you can rub your lips. That's a way to physically calm your nervous system.
The same skin that's made of your heart tissue is your lip tissue.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's also the sexual organ tissue.
Oh, how interesting.
So they're all connected. And it's also part of your voice, which is also connected to your heart.
What a cool piece of science. Thank you. Thank you for
and
that.
Another way is just to simply activate that consciousness of love in your heart. Now, here's the big thing. People talk about conditional and unconditional love.
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing. In the consciousness of love, there's just love.
It's just all love.
If it's conditional, it ain't love.
Thank you. That's a good point. Right? If it's conditional, it's not love.
So you get to activate that consciousness of love in your heart, and you keep just pausing in that.
You can do that also by wearing my fragrance.
Oh my God.
So it will do that for you, actually, which is why it's meant to be applied more than a couple times a day.
Yeah, because those essential oils do the heavy lifting. They remove the RNA of the DNA, the replicating factor.
Right. So something to think about, guys, is that you now have a really lovely toolbox for how to get into more than enough so that you can get on with your mission.
And here's the thing, the toolbox only works if you use your tool. And when we're in that deep fear cycle, right, sometimes you actually need someone to turn to prompt you in moving up that scale of consciousness.
Sure.
And so a preventative of, listen, we're all going to have that valley moment. But the preventative is constantly doing the tool, constantly being in connection. Setting up your sacred time. I hear so many, from spiritual entrepreneurs, so have you connected with the divine today? No. Did you answer your email? Did you look at Facebook? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's not that important. It's as important as that connection.
Mm-hmm. And you guys, Jennifer brought up something too earlier that was, I think, really important for us. I know that I struggle with, I can sit and meditate for a half hour, no problem, but I can't sit and meditate for a half hour every day at the same time every day.
You don't have
that will drive me nuts. I, as a scanner, like to do different things. I can't even do the same workout every day. So for me, what connection looks like is one day it means doing a yoga practice. Another day it means sitting in silence for 30 minutes. Another day it's going to be journaling. And in our time here today, I'm thinking, you know what, I should probably chill with my soul team daily, even if it's for a brief period of time. And then maybe once a week or twice a week is a longer period of time. And I connect with them via journaling. That's how we do it.
And a good place to do that also is in the shower. And
cool.
Here's why.
Tell me.
Your mind is busy with all the things that you need to take care of in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
So when you connect your soul and the soul language team, you're going to, 10 times out of 1, you're just going to hear answers quicker and easier because your mind's not trying to figure everything
Vanessa
out.
also said the shower.
Shower's a big place.
Shower's a good place.
Water, flowing. You've
Yeah.
got the connectivity of water and psychic energy. Your mind is busy. It's a place of releasing in the bathroom anyway. So you're kind of in a prime location to kind of receive information.
Interesting. That's really cool to know. So everybody hang out with your soul team in the Shao. That's what I call it. And the other thing too is that you can do all the stuff that is fairly cognitive after you've done the physical. You can get centered physically and then layer on the cognitive. And now that that's been clearly laid out, what a beautiful tool set. And again, you don't have to do the same thing every day. You can change it up as long as there's consistency in the inconsistency.
Yeah, and also, there's this whole spiritual practice of gratitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would just roll my eyes at gratitude. I'd be like, gratitude, blah, 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 it's not action-oriented enough, right? But everything likes to be thanked on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you thank your soul once a day, after the connection process, there's a deep sense of gratitude that you just bring, which is more compassion.
Yeah.
We tend to be really loving and compassionate for our peeps, and we don't show the same respect to ourselves.
True. And
so how can you be in deep conversation and communion with yourself if you're not even respecting yourself in the littlest way?
Yeah, love that. I think that's a perfect place to end our chat today. Yay. Then you can put on some perfume from me, and then you will develop yourself in
such a beautiful fragrance.
I'm excited. So, you guys, we're going to take a longer break. We're going to come back at 4. It is now, I think it's 3 o'clock almost. We're going to come back at 4 with Rachel from the Yogipreneur. Yay, one of my business besties. And then we've got 2 more interviews after that. So hang with us. Rachel and the Yogipreneur, we're going to talk a lot, I think, about soulful systems. I haven't told her that yet, but I'm excited. And then with Laura, no, then we'll have Alexandra Ferguson, who's created an amazing line of pillows that communicate delightful messages.
Oh my God, I need to see this.
Such as, let's make out. Jennifer and I are both thinking of our respective men folk. And then we're going to wrap up the day with Laura Garnett, who actually introduced me to my man folk, who is a business matchmaker and who I think is just a really talented person and is an amazing connector. And so we're going to talk about how she does that with heart and soul. So come back with us. We'll be live at 4. We'll probably go pretty much straight from 4 to roughly 6 o'clock. No, 5. Yeah, 6 o'clock. So get ready. It's going to be an exciting end to our 2 days, and I'll see you soon. Oops, I just